Okay guys, let's pick up here where we left off on the Zenith K731. You can see I've got the backer board out, or the supporting board for the grill cloth, and I've just got a small bottle here, and I'm going to use some alcohol and just spritz this instead of water. It dries really quick, and just give this a misty coat, let it sit there for just a few minutes, and then try to lift the grill cloth off. I did have a great suggestion as well from one of my viewers, and said possibly reverse the grill cloth. So we'll look at that, and if it looks good and Bob agrees, we'll just move forward in that direction in lieu of putting on new grill cloth. So let me get this spritzed on real quick. You can see here I'm just taking a razor here and working myself around the edge, and to see if the adhesive is starting to loosen up, and it appears that it is. Probably need to spritz this again. I'll start here with the edges, and then I'll start working my way from the right side back down across to the left. You can see here I continue to make progress, and the adhesive is giving up, and I'm able to at least get the grill cloth off here around the edges themselves. And unfortunately the burn marks go all the way through, so I know that won't be satisfactory for Bob, so we'll look at replacing the grill cloth. Let me grab the grill cloth that Bob provided, and let's get it out and take a look at it. And in the meantime, I'll go ahead and just kind of clean up the backer board here so it dries, and we can get some of the residue off of the board as well. See here, I'm still just leveraging the flat edge of the razor here, and just going across the wood here just to get this residue off. Okay, you can see I got most of the adhesive off, and any of the leftover residue. There's still a few shiny spots here I'll clean up, but just want to make sure everything was nice and flat. Some of these heads on the screws here that hold the fasteners in for the speaker itself are not quite flush, so I may try to tighten those just a bit, and see if I can get those to set flush here before applying the new grill cloth as well. And that's a good looking grill cloth that Bob has picked out here that he wants to use for the replacement. Let me go ahead and just make sure I'm going to double clean my cutting board here, and do some measurements here, and we'll go ahead and lay this out. Everything here is just straightforward. I was doing the measurements here horizontally and vertically, so I'll be 361 millimeters here, looking at this left to right or right to left, and then on the vertical orientation, let's see, looking back at my notes, about 137, then I'll add 5 millimeters here for the top gap as well, which is about halfway home, and that's the way the other grill cloth was attached. You guys may be able to hear the wind in the background. It's crazy this morning. High wind advisory for about 45 to 50 mile an hour winds or so until about noonish today. So it's a little loud out here in the shop. Anyway, you can see I've got the grill cloth laid out, and I've got the corners attached here, just using some old painter's tape. I'm going to leave this laying here just for a few minutes, and I'm going to re-stretch it tight again, and then just go ahead and proceed to do the measurements that I called out just a moment ago, and just do a rough cut on the outside edges of those marks, and then we'll do some final trim, and then just do a kind of a dry fit before applying the adhesive to the supporting backing board. I re-stretched the grill cloth, and using the grids on my cutting map, I tried to square everything up best I could. And now I'm just using a square itself, and I'm going to go ahead and just put a marker down here with a pencil, just to make sure I've got a nice square cut. What I'm going to do, I'm just eyeballing this right now, but I just want to make sure, you know, the fabric itself, the way it was cut, that I'm satisfied with the squareness here of the pattern. So I'm going to try to do some measurements here between some of the humps and the cloth itself, just to make sure it's as accurate as possible. Not to bore you guys with cutting out the grill cloth here, but you can see I've got everything cut, and I'll do some trimming here after we put the adhesive here on the backing or supporting board. Anyway, I think it's going to look really good. I'll stretch it out tight, and we'll do the alignment here to make sure everything's as good as I can. And we'll get this thing reinstalled into the cabinet and take a look at it. Alright, you can see I've got everything taped out and ready for the spray adhesive that I'll be using. I'll go tack this down really good outside, and hopefully the wind won't blow it back in my face or eyes. And we'll come back in, I'll remove these pieces, get the tape off, let it tack up for about 30 to 60 seconds or so. And then I'm going to start here on this side and just apply the cutout piece of grill cloth and stretch it out and just roll it across here to the right, or pull it to the right. I'll do that off camera because I'm going to have my hands here in front of the camera view, and we'll provide an update here in just a moment. You can see here where I sprayed the adhesive. Okay, I'll continue to look this over. I may have just a few moments or so left here to be able to work out a few issues. Okay guys, did the best I could with it here, trying to get everything squared up and nice and tight. And these things are always somewhat difficult and tedious, and you usually get just one try. But I'm satisfied with the results here. I'm going to do just a little bit more tweaking here around the edges, and then go ahead and clean that cabinet out, blow it out really good, and then we'll go ahead and get this back in the cabinet, get the excussion mounted. And if time permits in this video, we'll get started on the tone control. If not, we'll pick up in a future video. Again, I had my hands in front of the camera about the whole time, so it took time there to get the inside of the cabinet cleaned out. And you can see I've got the grill cloth here, that supporting board that holds the speaker as well as the grill cloth back in place. And I'll go ahead and get the screws now back in place as well that I removed to hold this in place, and get the excussion back in as well. Then we'll take another look at it here. As I mentioned, I had my hands in front of the cabinet and underneath the cabinet, getting everything back in place, but got all the fasteners back in for the supporting board here, the backer board for the grill cloth, the excussion, and just did a quick initial clean here on this as well. But everything looks great. Bob, I hope you'll be pleased here with the grill cloth. I think it looks wonderful. Okay guys, I got everything jumped in, the speaker itself and the antenna, and I'm going to just use some contact cleaner here and get back down in this tone control. And this is very flammable, so I'm going to just squirt just a bit in there, and I'm going to work this back and forth for a few minutes, and then I'll power the radio back up to see if the problem has resolved itself. But I was looking, I can definitely access the control area down in here, so hopefully we'll just be able to clean this thing out, and that will cure the problem there for Bob. If not, then we'll look at some alternate solutions. Alright, let me flip on the Variac again and bring this thing up.
Resistance training is an important component of a complete fitness program. Regularly, you deserve the best. Start at Jeep.com and discover how Jeep is taking legendary capabilities.
Okay, looks like we've got it there with just using a little contact cleaner. I'll continue to play this for a while, and I'm going to do the same for the volume control and get it cleaned up, and I'm going to take a look at the tuning condenser as well. So there's a few other items here that I want to look at as well. It has a Selenium Rectifier right back here. You can see the blue fins in the background. Hopefully that's showing up. And I've replaced those in the past, and one of the viewers of the first video also recommended that I replace that. So I'll consider that and touch base with Bob and see how to go forward with that. If I elect to do so, I'll provide an update. Okay guys, I got the Zenith K731 here playing, and I got that volume control and the tone control cleaned. And the tone control was definitely problematic, and it's really smooth now, and I don't hear any of the static whatsoever. And then there are a couple other issues that need to be cleaned up. Bob's going to send me another power cord here that has the adapter here that fits into the back of the chassis. You can see here up close and some photos here that the wire is frayed, so that's a safety issue. Others out there too. This is a hot chassis radio. I'm going through a variac with an isolation transformer, so the chassis on this is hot. And that's one thing to keep in mind, Bob. If you play this, you know, you'll be doing so at your own risk. An isolation transformer would be the safest way, or definitely make certain you don't come in contact with any metal itself. The Selenium Rectifier here, there was a recommendation to go ahead and bypass that with a modern day diode. And you can see I've done that here. Then I put the appropriate dropping resistor. The original resistor here, I think 22 ohms, and I ended up with 75 ohms. And my B plus voltage here is within just a couple volts of what I see on the reference schematics. Left this in for aesthetic purposes to make it look original. And you can see, as I mentioned, just the parts that I added there. I've got a terminal strip, took advantage of a hole that was already there, put a number 6 screw and nut in place. Got the diode mounted and the power resistor there that can more than handle the wattage requirements there, and it ties right back into the electrolytics. Don't hear any hum at all, so I think these electrolytics are you know, still in good shape. I may do a ripple test and just make certain, but this thing is playing fantastic. Anyway, that will wrap it up for this particular video. I'll do a final video once I get the other cord in the mail from Bob, get the chassis back in the cabinet, and we'll play it one more time just to make sure it's still solid. Folks, I appreciate you watching again on this Zenith K731 from the early 1960s. Take care.